Whenever you're doing your setup, it is very important to make sure that you're putting out boards. Put a board over top of the fryers, put a board on top of any of the equipment, grills and otherwise, that you would be walking on, because you don't want to put any footprints on anything like that. And also the boards help with dispersal of weight. So if you're standing on just a straight grate on a grill, you could break it, but with the board, it helps disperse the weight evenly over the entire grate, so you're not going to just pop through one spot. First things first, pulling the filters out, making sure to get that set up so that the sprayer can get started on the filters while the inside guys are prepping the area. Yep, pull the grease cup as well whenever you're pulling filters. Worst thing whenever it comes to filters is sometimes they may be stuck, and if they are stuck, you take a scraper and then you would pry the filter out. But other than that, you just basically pull and they will come out. And then I'll take you all outside and show you where to prop them up. All right, then we get the filter set up in a good location. Find an area with good drainage, like a sewer drain, or by, I guess, a dumpster where the water and the grease would have the good area to flow to. And then make sure that you're away from any vehicles or anything that could be affected with getting any grease on it. Get the grease cups as well. Sprayer would get set up to spray the filters while they are setting up inside.
It gives me something to cut through.
Okay.
You can go ahead and profile.
Right.
Actually, do me a favor. Pick up one of the filters and kind of set it down.
Okay. Just like pick it upside down. All right. Essentially, all I'm doing out here is just making sure they're cleaned right now. Then as soon as I get all the grease off in there, I'll be letting them dry and putting them up as well. And then they're essentially going to be tarping everything off and getting it prepped for me spraying, making sure everything's watertight, and making sure all the equipment's covered and so on and so forth. All right, make sure whenever you're going to tarp off the hoods that you are making sure the fan is turned off, because if the fan is on, it could suck the plastic up into the ductwork, and you do not want that to happen. But first thing we're going to do before we start to tarp off is we're going to cover up the fryers and make sure there's no outlets that need covered with duct tape before we start. They're rolling out the plastic now to make sure they are cutting the right length of plastic to cover up the equipment. Make sure everything's good to go, and make sure we're not getting water in anything. A good thing to check as well when covering with plastic is to make sure you're being cautious of any equipment that could be hot that could melt the plastic as well. So always make sure that your pilot lights are blown out prior to this. Now we're about to start the process of tarping off the hood and making sure everything is watertight. When you're pulling the length of plastic for the tarping off of the hood system, you always want to compensate for the sides. So you don't want to only pull it the length of the hood. You also want to pull it a couple extra feet to compensate for the size of the hood as well. Essentially, you want to start from the corner and work your way down the hood whenever you're setting up, because you want to make sure that you have enough slack to work with whenever you're setting it up. And you want to make sure everything's nice and tight and it's not going to leak water. Another important thing too is to make sure that these clamps are on the inside of the hood here. If the plastic was on the inside of the wall here, then the water would just roll in between the plastic and the wall and cause a mess on the floor. He's taking a rag right now and putting it on top of the shim just to fill in a little bit of extra gap there. And he's going to be shimming all the way down this entire hood system here, making sure everything's nice and tucked in. And essentially the biggest thing with these setups is just making sure everything's watertight. Most important thing with the hood system being watertight is just you don't want to make a big mess. You don't want to flood out the kitchen as well, and you want to be cautious of the building that you're in. Because if you weren't cautious of where the water was going and things like that, could cause issues with the flooring, electrical, or otherwise. If it is dark and you come into a building, a thing that we have in the trucks is a headlamp. So if you needed a headlamp to look, if you can't see up into the plenum here or any of the ductwork, a headlamp will make that happen. A plenum is essentially where we pull out all the filters. This is where basically the beginning of the ductwork is going to be. So this is right behind where the filters go. There's going to be a lot of grease typically in this area, and then the gutter in the back of here. Also, you can see if you look up in the hood system here that there's ductwork right in there. That is, we're gonna have to be spraying out as well, and using the headlamp will help you be able to see up in the ductwork. The hood's all set up. Next thing we're gonna do is set up a back wall. Essentially, the purpose of a back wall is to make sure that we're not getting any overspray on any of the shelving or any equipment that is on the line. So next thing we're doing is putting up a backdrop here. Importance of that is to make sure that you're covering any of the equipment that is on the line, making sure you're not getting any overspray onto any of the shelving, microwaves or otherwise. You just essentially are pulling the length of the... You want to take a clamp and then find like a nice sturdy spot. You don't want to be putting it underneath any plates or anything like that that's going to move. Basically, the best thing you can do is hook it up directly to the shelving and then make sure that it's just somewhere sturdy. A very important thing with this job too is making sure you have non-slip boots on, making sure that the sprayer has proper safety equipment for like eye coverage, and you want to make sure that you're wearing the proper attire, company shirts, company hats. Now that we got the back wall put up here, the hood set up, we're going to take the trash can and we're going to get this set up at the end of the tarp here. When you're setting up the trash can, you want to bring it a little towards the center here. Make sure that whenever you're putting the tarp into the trash can and you're hooking it up, you want to think about the flow of the water. So when you're setting it up, you want to make sure you're getting the least amount of puddling possible in the plastic, and we'll be able to show that as we go on. If you ever run into a situation where the hood system's too big and you need to use multiple trash cans, if you're ever using somebody else's equipment or anything like that, just make sure that you're doing them a favor and rinsing it off afterwards. An important part of whenever you're setting up the hood here, like I talked about with the water flow, is he's taking the plastic, he's pulling it nice and tight, and he's going to be twisting the plastic towards the inside of the trash can there to make sure that the water is flowing properly into the center. The better that this flows, the less amount of puddling you're going to have. If it does start to puddle here, with the inside guys that you have with you, always make sure that they're keeping an eye on it. You don't want to fill this up with too much water because the extra weight could possibly pull the shims out, and you don't want to cause a mess. So always make sure that whoever your inside guy is keeping up on puddles in the plastic when you're spraying. All right, yep, whenever you're pulling the power washing hose out, always make sure you pull it all the way out. You don't want it to be halfway on the reel because you want to make sure that the hose is fully stretched out. There's no kinks in it. There's metal braiding inside of the hose, so you want to think about it being nice and stretched out. You don't want to kink where the hose could possibly blow. The green hose here is the water hose. We have that ran inside and hooked up to the dump sink where they would use for like mops and whatnot. And then there's a pin on the back of the reel here that you want to make sure that you lock the reel so that the reel isn't moving whenever you turn the pressure washer on. Whenever you have a hose reel and you got all the hoses ran out, just make sure that this pin here on the side, that you have it locked in place. When you have it pulled out there and put on this lip here, it's unlocked, and when you pull it down, make sure it's in the hole, it won't move. The reason that you do that is just so that whenever you have any pressure coming through the line, it's not making the reel move in any way, shape, or form. Whenever you go to turn on the machine, the first things first, you want to make sure that the exhaust is cleared out. If you have a machine where the exhaust is facing out the back, you want to make sure that there's nothing in the way of it. In this instance, the exhaust comes out of the top, so it's not going to affect it. Whenever it's cold and you haven't used it yet in the day, you always need to pull the choke first and then hit the ignition. Whenever you go to start the machine, it's important to make sure that you have your hand on the trigger so that the pressure doesn't build up in the line and cause the line to blow. Next thing we're going to do is turn the burner on to make sure that there's heat coming to the machine. we're gonna go over our chemical mixture for our hood cleaning chemical. Make sure that you're grabbing the right jug. They're all labeled. Red means that is for the hood chem. Make sure that you always use the right jug. So I'm gonna go over how to make the chemical for the hood cleaning, essentially a stronger degreaser. Always make sure that you're looking for the properly labeled jug. If you have a question on labels for the chemicals or anything like that, make sure to check your apps, your Talent LMS, or we have a list of chemicals in the truck. So first things first, gonna open up the lid here. If it's flaky, this is the potassium, and the sodium that we use for the other half of the chemical is a powder. I'll pull that out here. All right, and essentially what you want to do is take this is a 2-gallon jug, so you want to do 1 scoop of each per gallon. So since this is a 2-gallon jug, I'm going to do 2 scoops of each. And the scoops that we use for those are 8-ounce scoops. So essentially for the 2-gallon jugs, you want to use 16 ounces of each. All right, and then whenever you go to fill this up and top off the jug, always use cold water. Never use hot water because you will melt the jug. Fill it up to about this line at the top here. Go ahead, whenever you put the cap on here, make sure that it's tightened down really good. If it's not tightened down enough, whenever you go to pump it up, you're going to hear air bubbles. So always make sure that it's tightened down good, you're not having any leaks. Always shake it up as well, because the powder that you put in here is going to settle at the bottom of the jug. And whenever you're about to bring this in the building, make sure that you turn your valve off so that you're not dripping water on the way in. And always make sure that you have one of your helpers come and guide the hose through the building. Hey Kyle, or Thomas, you want to help me pull this hose in? Yep. Make sure to be cautious of everything. First things first, before you start the spray, make sure you got your proper PPE, either goggles or a face mask, to make sure that you're not getting anything in your eyes or on your face. Make sure that you start the fan before you start to apply any of the degreaser to the hood. There's a lot of variables whenever it comes into fan units. This one is going to be kind of hard to see. The screen's a little dim, but this one's just got the buttons on the side here. Sometimes they're on a switch, or they could be on a breaker depending on the building. Now, whenever you're spraying this chemical, make sure everybody's clear of it. Make sure you're being cautious of where this is going. It is corrosive. Start here. Now, when applying the chemical, I would do half the hood at a time. You don't want to apply it to the entire hood because you want to have a spot to stand that you're not going to have it dripping on you. Be cautious of where you're spraying. Soak the whole plenum, hit the ansel bars as well. Basically anywhere you see grease, you want to make sure it has a nice even coating of the degreaser on it. All right. And then also when you're spraying, make sure that you always have the shop vac set up and ready just in case by chance there is any water at least on the floor. Your inside guy will be on top of it. Now we're going to get into spraying. Make sure you're cautious of your angles. There is an ansel bar system that runs above the ductwork there that has a metal clip on it. Make sure that you're being cautious of the ansel bar system. You don't want to bump that clip too hard and make the ansel system go off. It's essentially a clip that has a wire that goes through it that if it gets too hot, it melts, and then that's what sets off the fire extinguisher system.
Where is this ansel bar system?
It is right at the end of the ductwork here. So you don't want to use too much pressure around it. All right. Go ahead and get on that shop vac. You said what?
Tell me what I'm seeing here. Like the grease has been melting off, right?
Essentially what the degreaser does is it will loosen up all the grease and make it so that everything can come off easier. Go ahead and grab that wall, fix that wall there. Pull it a little tighter. Spraying up into plenum, make sure that you're hitting the rail that the filters slide into inside of the plenum. Make sure that whenever you're hitting the plenum, that you're spraying that out and making sure that whenever you go to put the filters back in at the end, they can properly go in. All right, and then when you're hitting the ansel bars, make sure you're hitting the entire ansel bar, starting from the bottom, working your way up. All right, and then always make sure your inside guys staying up on these bubbles like I was explaining during the setup. That is very important. You don't want too much weight to get built up in the plastic, causing it to tear down. Just to be thorough, I'm gonna chem it one more time on this side. Hit that side one more time. Make sure I get that front wall there for them. And then I'm gonna switch over and hit this last half. Yes, just extra caution. Always make sure you're doing manageable sections of the hood. You don't want to get any of the chemicals on you, and you want to avoid getting as much on you as possible generally. The reason that we're keeping up on the vacuuming is just we don't want any puddling. We want to make sure that we're not flooding anything out. It just makes it a lot easier whenever it comes to the cleanup, especially when you have multiple guys. It's a lot easier to keep up on the water on the floor and things like that, keep things moving smoothly. And keeping the customer happy is very important, and you don't want to leave puddles on the floor, leave a mess on the floor. Least amount of mess that we leave, the less likely you are to have a callback. I'm going to turn the fan off for a second here and let it drain out of that duct that I just sprayed. All right, so now for the second half here, same thing as the other half. Just make sure you're being cautious of where you're spraying. We're going to do this half down. Now, if anything drips on me from where I already sprayed, you already know it's rinsed with clean water and it's not going to affect you. Just make sure that you're holding the gun properly. Make sure that you're being aware of the pressure. Don't let your gun slap around inside of the hood. A lot of times, I know that these are like regular bar lights, but a lot of times when you get to the hood, they're gonna have globes and you don't wanna be bumping anything, breaking anything. Make sure that you're keeping a good grip on your gun. And then also make sure that you're just cautious of where the water is going and where the chemicals you're spraying are going as well. Make sure that you're just being aware of your surroundings and just be as cautious as possible. Don't go nuts. Yeah, you can.
Is this the clip right here you were talking about?
Yes, yes.
This little nozzle with the thing right here?
Yep, right in there on the inside.
Oh, and I see it kind of
Yep.
has like
A little metal clip in the middle there, and that's... All right, now for the final soak on it, I'm gonna hit the front wall here on it one more time. I didn't soak it too heavy. It's typically the last thing I like to soak. Reason being is whenever you're doing this inside wall here, you don't want it dripping on you. So that's typically the last thing you want to do. And a good way to do it is I'd start in this corner, and when I'm spraying it, I would be backing up with it. Make sure nobody's ever standing underneath that lip while you're doing it. If it's melting grease off like that, you want to think about getting that on your skin. You wouldn't want that on you. So just make sure that you're keeping track of where you're applying this. Make sure that you're just being as cautious as possible. Then the opposite of when you're applying it, I started from that corner, work my way out. Now when you're spraying it, you want to start from here and work your way down, because you don't want to go underneath of where it's dripping.
Then last thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna spray up into the ductwork. Make sure that I get a nice even coat in there with the greaser, and then spray it out as well. Make sure that the water's coming out isn't dark. You can adjust the stream on your pump jug. If you tighten it, it makes it so that it comes out as a mist, and if you want to loosen it, it'll come out as a straight stream. So, and that will help a lot whenever you're spraying up in the ductwork. You want to use more of a stream when you're spraying in the ductwork, so you can get farther of it.
Keenan.
Uh-oh, mic come off.
I don't know how long I was down there for.
Probably from being wet.
All right, now I'm going to be spraying up into ductwork here. Whenever you get done spraying into ductwork, always make sure you turn the fan off and let them drain, because water is going to fill up in the duct. And in this case, there is 2 ducts. So if you spray up one of them, it's going to fill up and come out of the other side. So always be cautious and be aware of where your water is going to flow from. And and also keep track of where your gutter is going to flow as well. There's one hole for it to flow out of at this end here. Always make sure that you're tarped and it's flowing properly. All right. All right, now we're done inside. Everything's looking good. I'm gonna go up on the roof and then start that process. All right, a very important thing to do whenever you're going up on the roof, make sure that your ladder is set up and it's 3 rungs above the gutter line to make sure that it's nice and safe. And then also when you're going up, make sure that your inside guy is on the bottom, putting pressure on the bottom rung of the ladder and holding the sides to keep the ladder nice and sturdy. And then you want to have the throw rope. You're going to toss that down. You're going to tie off the wand for the pressure washer. And whenever you have them tie it off, make sure they tie it behind the trigger so that it doesn't go off when they pull it. If you tie it over top of the trigger and you pull it, the wand's just going to start spraying. You do not want that. Then also after you pull that up, you're going to toss the rope back down there again. And then you're going to have them tie off the chemical and you're going to pull that up as well. And this is essentially where you'd want it tied off. Never in front of the trigger. First thing I would do after you get your power washer up here is to make sure that you take this, run it out, and it's in a secure spot before you start to grab the chemical. All right, and now that you know that it's not sliding off the roof and it's nice and secure, you go ahead and set this down and then go over and you'll tie off the chemical and send it up as well. And now that it's up here, this is also very important. Make sure that your handle is nice and secure in the top here, just to make sure that when you're pulling it up, you're not catching this on anything and breaking the handle off. First things first, whenever you get up to the fan here, make sure you get your phone, get your pictures for your company cam, and make sure that you're getting your before and afters of everything. I'm gonna get down in there and get a picture of your blades as well. And there is a hinge on here. The way you can tell is there's a chain in the front here. There's also access to the blades in the side of this hole punch here. So it'll be nice and easier to spray through to the blades. And there's a hinge on the back of the fan here. And then there's the chain here. That's what keeps it open. And that's how you know that your fan is hinged. Whenever you're with whoever you're with, make sure that you're telling them if the fan is hinged or not, because if the fan is hinged, then you know a lot of water is going to come out of the ductwork. Now we're going to get this opened up. Be cautious. Make sure that you're always being cautious of wiring. If it's starting to pull on it, then make sure that you mark that as deficient, but this is fine. A good thing to be cautious of is obviously your foot placement and where you are at on the roof. I know there's no rail here on this roof, so I'm gonna be cautious. I'm gonna stand from the side here. And just like the inside of the fan, you wanna get pictures of the ductwork and the inside of the blades as well. And also be careful to not drop your phone. Yes, you don't wanna drop it down into the ductwork. And then I would yell down. Make sure that your inside guy is aware that you're about to be spraying down. About to spray down. All right. They'll let you know if they're ready or not, which is a good thing, because you always want everybody to be prepared and be on the same page, because that can cause issues. Get a nice even coat of the chemical on the grease in the side of the ductwork. as well as on the inside of the blades here at the bottom of the fan and the base. It's great to have your PPE for whenever you're starting to spray the fan, as well as whenever you're doing the inside. Just always be cautious, make sure that you're wearing the proper safety equipment. If there's a heavy amount of buildup in the ductwork, make sure that you bring a pool scraper up with you and scrape out the ductwork. In this case, there's not enough grease for me to need that, and it all came off with the power washer. Right now I'm adjusting the pressure. Since it's a little tight and it's really close to the edge of the roof, I'm adjusting the pressure to make sure it's not gonna spray back into my face. Also, when you're spraying, be cautious to not bump the blades with the end of the power washer. Be very cautious. You do not want to break a blade off while you're spraying it. Just make sure that you get your after photos of the inside of the fan and the ductwork as well. I'm going to yell down and tell them that I'm done spraying down the ductwork so that they can get started inside. Done spraying down? All right, then make sure that you're being cautious with this and ease it down. Don't slam the fan onto the ductwork. Make sure it's nice and secure. Everything's good to go. The importance of the before and after photos is it's not only proof to the customers that we did our job properly, but it also is great for quality control. So make sure you're getting your before and afters. A good tip too is to make sure you're standing downwind. You wouldn't want the mist to blow onto you. All right, nice even coat on the inside of the bowl here. All right, and then now that I got the inside of the bowl soaked, I'm gonna also get a good soaking on the inside of the blades here. And since this has a hole punched here, you can actually see inside here directly into the fan blades. Because once you start spraying it and the blades start to spin, then you'll be able to get a good coat on the rest of the blades as well. So you're gonna have to do that a couple times. Also, be cautious of just like whenever you're spraying the inside of the hood, be cautious of your angles. Make sure that you're avoiding getting any back spray onto yourself as much as possible. So I would just spray away from yourself. Don't spray anything down like this because you're gonna have it splash right back up into your face. You do not want that. You wanna avoid that as much as possible. So spray away from yourself. The inside guys right now are in there. They're getting everything torn down. They're starting to wipe the water out of the hood and getting it ready to polish. And then they're going to be doing the back wall as well behind the equipment, and like the fryers and grills and whatnot, just to make sure that all the grease is removed. Now that the inside of the bowl here is sprayed out, I'm going to be moving on to the fan blades now. I'm going to start with the spray off that first layer of chemical I put on there. Then I'm going to apply it a couple more times as the blades are kind of spinning. And when spraying the blades, make sure you're doing it in a controllable manner. You don't want the blades to spin full speed, so don't blast it so hard that it's making it spin out of control, because you will knock the fan off balance if you spray it too hard. This is the second coat I'm going over now. I would typically say do it 2-3 times, then take a picture of it, see how the progress is looking, and if it's all off, you're good to go. You might need to apply it a couple more times. All right, now I'm going to grab my phone, take a look in there, see how it's looking. And after you're sure that you got everything you can get off the blades, you're good to go. Yell down to your inside guys, make sure that they turn the fan on and you get a video of the fan working before you go down. Also, make sure that you're checking the belt on the fan. So, pop the tabs, open this, look at it, see what condition the belt is in, and then if the belt's good to go, you're good to put the lid back on there. Make sure that you're doing all your notes at the end of the job and marking the condition of the belt. If you need a new one, then grab a belt out of the truck, match the size, and put it on. And don't forget to charge them for it for a belt change. All right, so on the inside here, you guys already kind of started, but we're taking down the tarp that we put up for whenever we were spraying the hood system. Now that we're done, and they're getting to get all the water out of there. They're going to go through with scratchies and make sure that all the grease that has been missed, whatever we were spraying, is cleaned out as well. And then we're going to go through and polish everything and touch it up. That's a very important part as well, is sweeping out the gutters, making sure there's no grease left over in the gutters whenever we're done spraying. Then I'm going to be going outside and starting those filters while they're finishing up in here. And then at the end, I'll be coming in and checking everything, making sure they are being thorough, getting all the grease off of everything, and then going over things and getting some final pictures as well. Whenever I go to do filters, I always turn the filters sideways so I can spray in between the louvers and get it in between the crevices here on the filters, just to make sure that you're being thorough. I would do it going this way, flip it over, and then hit it the opposite direction so that you're getting both sides of it. One side, flip it. And also, whenever you're flipping it, it's going to help you with hitting the sides of the filter as well. Just make sure that make sure the filter's sturdy enough. If they're aluminum and they're really flimsy, I wouldn't put so much pressure on it with your foot. But a good thing to keep it from popping out on me is I just put my foot at the bottom here when I'm spraying the sides. Obviously, never spray directly at your foot or anywhere in the vicinity of your foot. Essentially, you're going to want to do that with every single filter. Just make sure you're being as thorough as possible. You want to try to stay on the same track as your guys on the inside so that y'all can finish together. So now that the hood is all complete, everything is polished, touch-up spots have been taken care of, plenum has been swept out, all excess water has been removed. Last thing that we're going to do is I'm going to take those clean filters that I have washed outside. We're going to pop them in the hood, make sure everything's running properly, get some final pictures of everything. Make sure you're getting pictures inside of the plenum, inside of the gutters, and the ductwork as well, just to show them what we have completed. Picture-wise, there's a guide and a checklist to go over to make sure that you're not missing out on anything like that. It is essential that every single hood job that you do, you're filling out your checklist and you're doing your due diligence to make sure that you're going over everything. And then whenever you're popping the filters in, make sure that you're starting on the ends so that you can just fill in the center. It's going to be a lot easier than putting them all the way down and then the last filter being the one all the way on the end, because you're not going to have much room to work with. Always start with the ends, fill it in. Last thing's very important is to put up a new sticker to make sure that they have the sticker up for the next, telling them when the next service is due, and then if the fire department comes, they can also tell that we were here.